This is Medieval Guy. He's a medieval Only Ironman. That means no magic, no runecrafting, and no magical items inconsistent with medieval lore. Together we explore Runescape and compare it to the medieval world of Europe to learn what life was like for people then and how it informs our gaming today. Join us as we compare Galenor to the real world that inspired it.
Oh, my head. What has happened? What is that? Okay, well, it finally happened, I guess. There's nothing really I could do about that. I did my best, I suppose, but c'est la vie. Goodbye to the red helmet. Just a couple episodes ago, decided to make this character a full-time Iron Man, and there's nothing I can do about that now. So, Medieval Guy has lost his hardcore status. I won't get into the rage-inducing jankiness of it, but let's just say that a particular Fire Giant's task did not go as planned. Yeah, no worries about that. Just not even gonna get into it. That does open up a whole new realm of possibilities for us, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Now that I am, it's sort of dead, but not really, I can now go about some of the more dangerous tasks I've been meaning to with a bit more aggression and maybe a little bit less fear. Now that red helmet is gone, I really do feel like I'm a little bit more liberated. I can kind of do what I want to do. I decided to start off here because in my contemplation of what to do with this character after a death, which I had never really planned for because I assumed I was just going to be amazing and never have to die, I decided that I almost said Iron Lateran, that Medieval Guy, he got severely injured, or maybe he suffered from a serious disease, and he was laid up for a little bit, and was in a field hospital. He needed a little bit of, a little bit of encouragement to get back on the horse, so to speak. I mean, I know you can't ride mounts in RuneScape, but if you could, he'd be getting back on it. The lovely nurses have helped him out, and it got me thinking about medicine in RuneScape and kind of the lack thereof. Stats-wise, I haven't made a lot of progress since my last video. I'm now 1153, and a few of those are going to go up by the end of the episode. The primary goal here is to finish out 47 Slayer so that I can finally get to Brine Rats. Now, we don't technically have to wait on Brine Rats. We could just go and start our next goal, which is the Fremennik Trials. Now, I either already have or am capable of getting all of the required items for this, including, onions and cabbages and little things like that. I have checked and double checked, and I am 95% sure that I have all the things that I need, but as we know, I'm very bad at playing an Iron Man. I have literally no idea what I'm doing. That said, I do believe I am pretty much prepared for this, and I'm currently on my way to wrap up another little bit of farming and finish the 47 Slayer on some Infernal Mages, actually. Now, I don't think I actually have enough Infernal Mages on the tasks to get me a Slayer level and a half. So it's probably going to be another couple of tasks at least before I get it. I'm just going to go and range them down. I did think about doing something else. While I was playing, I kind of thought about, just sitting at like rock crabs or something and pushing my attack and strength and some of those things up. But grinding felt really disingenuous for this character. I feel like he needs to earn his abilities, especially his combat abilities, through his experiences, not just through killing some convenient monsters. So I have thought about that, and I've decided that it's not appropriate for the character. So he is going to be continuing to do this through Slayer. I'm not going to grind out any levels unless I absolutely need like 1 or 2 levels as we're getting close to some quest requirements. Other than that, I'm just about ready to start Fremennik Trials. About the end of this episode, I'll have 47 Slayer, and then we can go and start that quest line. In the meantime, I think that this would be a good time to talk about some medicine.
Let's get into some history, shall we? As I was researching this episode, I really wanted to talk about plague. It's both topical and fun. Well, for us. separated by a few hundred years. The plague doctors are so neat. I mean, look at their hats and their cute little beaks. But no, there is literally a Plague City quest. So when I do that one in Arduino, I will cover Plague. But don't worry, there's still tons of other content to dig into. Today, I'm going to be dispelling some common myths around medieval medicine and exploring the reality of the myth in more detail. Then pointing out some comparisons in Runescape, because that's the point of the series, I think. I don't know. I forget why I'm here sometimes. So with no further ado, let's get into it. The first thing I want to address is the overall myth that medieval medicine was barbaric, baseless, and generally unhelpful. This just isn't true. Famously, people will cite bloodletting and leeches as examples of unhelpful treatment. Even Bones from Star Trek IV seems to think that medieval medicine was all just blood and gore.
How do you explain slow impulse, low respiratory rate, and coma?
Fundoscopic examination.
Fundoscopic examination is unrevealing in these cases.
A simple evacuation of the expanding epidural hematoma will relieve the pressure.
My God, man. Drilling holes in his head's not the answer. The artery must be repaired. Now put away your butcher knives and let me save this patient before it's too late. Dealing with medievalism here.
So let's dispel this myth once and for all. They did not apply leeches to every problem. But yes, they did use leeches. This myth comes mostly from the late medieval period, and it's no wonder why it's so common. We as humans have a built-in fear of parasites and a sick sense of pleasure from removing maladies from our bodies. You ever experience a rush of dopamine when you painfully pull out a sliver? Yeah, that's your dumb ape brain going, yes, remove foreign body, good. I think our fear of a parasite being attached to our body is a very visceral one, and it sticks in people's minds. But the truth is, as always, more complex than person sick, put leech on them. No. First thing to remember about any medieval practice, and in fact any ancient practice, is that people in the medieval era and, the whole world for the past 40,000 years have all had the same dumb ape brains. We have not gotten much smarter over the past several thousand years, and we're not going to get much smarter unless some pretty serious reproductive limitations are put on the state of West Virginia. Just kidding, West Virginia. I love you guys. Shout out to my cousins. We look at the actions of medieval doctors and go, how did they think that bleeding someone out was a good idea? Surely they should have known that they were doing would do more harm than good. Right? Well, no. I'm going to say this once and I'm going to say it slowly. If it did not work, they would not do it. They weren't dumb. They were doing their best, just like we are. Even over the course of this pandemic, we've found that early attachment to a ventilator actually increases the risk of death in COVID patients, not decreases it. So we changed our practices accordingly, and now the ventilator is really only used as a last resort. That took like a whopping 6 months to figure out. Medieval doctors had the same brain we do and made decisions in the same processes. That said, they did use leeches, and we'll get to that. They did drain blood quite a bit, and when you understand Hippocratic medicine, you can understand why. Hippocrates was an ancient Greek who helped unify the theory of medicine with the 4 elements in ancient science. And he's kind of important. You ever heard of the Hippocratic Oath? Yep, the one that all doctors take? Yeah, named after this dude. The 4 elements are air, water, earth, and fire. They correspond to the 4 bodily humors: blood, phlegm, bile, and yellow bile. It was believed that an imbalance in these 4 humors caused any number of bodily illnesses. And that's kind of correct. Today, we call the natural balance in your body homeostasis, and they called it eucrasia. I mean, eucrasia sounds way cooler, but who am I to judge? If your body was out of balance, they called it dyscrasia, which is also really cool and probably would make a great band name. They believed that dyscrasia could be cured by increasing or decreasing the appropriate humors within the body. Interestingly enough, we still use the term dyscrasia when referring to unknown blood disorders. Obviously, our 4 key elements are represented in Runescape, but the medical practices associated with them don't really transfer over much. They use the 4 elements in magical purposes, but they don't really bring that into the, herb lore and whatnot. But they should, and I'll talk about that in a minute. At this point, I had like 4 paragraphs written out comparing Hippocratic medicine to Eastern medicine and dividing them into associated elements. But if you want to know more about that, you're just going to have to go look it up because there isn't really a lot of Eastern influence in RuneScape. So I'm not going to go over it. In brief, Eastern medicine arrived at an almost identical system of associating bodily humors with the seasons, elements, and everything else. But they went way further into it than we did. The grand unification of temperaments, elements, and body has happened in multiple cultures independently, but in Chinese medicine, the 5 elements are in everything. They are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. These 5 elements are related to everything, and the number 5 appears in Chinese medicine, types of tea, my favorite burger joint, and even the pentatonic scale is based on it, giving Chinese music that unique sound that we associate with it. If you have a piano at home, you can unify the 5 elements just by playing the black keys on a keyboard, which are all in the pentatonic scale. Okay, enough of that. Back to Europe. So what kind of medicinal care would you actually expect to receive in medieval Europe, especially if you were a peasant? Well, there are 3 ways you may end up being treated depending on your geography and time. Most peasants in most places, in most time periods, we're being very general here, would receive medical care from a healer who lived in the town. This is assuming there's no large church body nearby or you're living in one of the non-Christian parts of Europe. These healers may be older women or wise men who knew the herbs and blends of plants that could create potions, salves, and concoctions that would alleviate a variety of ailments. Basically, European witch doctors. This medicine was not usually related to Hippocratic medicine unless the healer was educated, which they probably weren't. They might do simple things like help break a fever with blankets and wet cloths, or feed you or cover you with any number of herbs and spices, including aloe, cinnamon, star anise, basil, and many, many others that we recognize today. However, that is not to say that the healers were doing things just sort of willy-nilly based on oral histories. They would do things very similar to what the doctors would do. They had a passed down oral tradition and a practical tradition of medicine based on observations of what made people better when and why. So essentially, they were basically using an ancient version of WebMD, where they would, consult past doctors, past things that had worked, and then commented on it. This is most notable in the Canon of Medicine by Avicenna. And it's this style of medicine that transpired from one year to another until our modern practices. Both the healers and the professionally trained doctors were actually a little bit less interested in curing ailments and more interested in preventing ailments. There is a lot of preoccupation with diet and healthy behaviors in ancient medicine, because once you got sick, there was very little you could do to stop that person from being sick, but there were a lot of ways, or so they thought, to prevent one from getting sick. This is good advice today, and the preoccupation with food and what foods you should eat, and the fact that there were herbs and spices and concoctions put together to increase your health or resistance to diseases is very similar to what RuneScape is doing. You find and grow herbs, combine them into potions, and drink them for health benefits. The druids that represent the knowledgeable herbal healers definitely play into the medieval stereotypes surrounding druids, but real druids were more like ancient leaders of Germanic tribes than a secret cult of nonviolent warlocks. And they were already gone by the time that the medieval era really kicked off, so it's not super relevant, but we'll give them points for trying. Illnesses aren't covered much beyond plague in RuneScape, but we can see that the sick and injured in Miscellanea are being treated with the old bed and breakfast style of medieval medical care. The trappings are very modern, but the acts are accurate. So good job, RuneScape. You get points there. Some of the aforementioned herbs and treatments actually do have medicinal properties and are still recognized today. So this is what I mean when I say that they weren't dumb. They were able to recognize these health benefits without the advantages of chemical knowledge or laboratories to determine what exactly made them work the way they do. They just knew that it did work, so they trusted it. Just like how we don't understand magnetism today, but we're using it right now to communicate over great distances with your big dumb television screen. Aloe is famously used to treat burns, but should be used sparingly so as not to dry out the skin. Chamomile is a powerful natural sedative and has been used to treat stomach aches, sleep disorders, or general aches and pains. It's so powerful that it can actually induce vomiting if you take too much, so lay off the chamomile iced tea. Also, don't take it with ibuprofen or blood thinners, especially if you're pregnant or nursing. Chamomile is no joke. Basil has a number of properties that help lead to a longer, healthier life, explaining the virility of Italians, but mostly it was used to cure stomach ailments. Since basil is a natural antibacterial, this may have actually helped cure stomach infections. Today, basil is actually recommended as a health food because it can help limit cancerous growths. But this is not to say that medieval doctors were always right. Enter religion. The second way you might get treatment is by a local religious leader who believed in using scripture rather than the humors to help you. This was generally not a great situation, as most practitioners believed in simply praying the ailment away. They saw diseases as manifestations of evil spirits and believed the sick person was being punished for a sin. Those that did give medicine to the patient did so without consulting known medical practices. The use of St. John's wort was an extremely common prescription for anyone suffering from the plagues of evil spirits, snake bites, or burns. The association of St. John's wort as a cure for evil spirits, or what we would call depression, lives on today, but it is not effective. Stop taking this. Multiple studies have shown that St. John's wort is not only no more effective than a placebo, but dangerously interacts with actual antidepressants and can lead to lethal drops in serotonin. So good job, priests. You made the Dark Ages darker when you should have been making them danker. The third and rarest way you might receive medical treatment comes from a trained medical practitioner. As you may suspect, this was not necessarily much better than your local healer, but it was more meticulous and based in observation. They would observe your medical condition, compare it to the unified theory of humors, and prescribe a treatment that would bring you back into balance. And this is where the leeches come in. Yay, leeches! Leeches and bloodletting were used to remove bad blood or excessive humors from the body. And believe it or not, leeches were actually one of the most effective and useful treatments in medieval medicine, and they're still used today. Leeches placed on wounds or inflamed parts of the body helped pull infectious blood from the area. Today, leeches are used to remove blood clots from digits or help blood flow into new veins when reattaching body parts after surgery. They do this so well because they only move a small amount of blood, and leeches sterilize the area when they're done, and it's completely painless. Millions of years of evolution have made them the perfect blood-sucking parasite, and millions of years of evolution have made us smart enough to use them. So all in all, medieval medicine is not as barbaric as we make it out to be. And you had a pretty good chance of getting useful medical advice from most medical practitioners, as long as they weren't also parishioners. Ultimately, they understood that ill people needed rest, liquids, and an internal balance. Fevers are bad, infections should be suppressed or cut out, and some herbs and spices help reduce dangerous symptoms. Runescape has vestiges of this medieval medicine, and it's great to see the ancient ideas of herbal remedies being utilized in modern gaming. But I do wish there was a stronger connection between the four elements and herb lore. I think ground dust from a fire rune or water rune would be a reasonable ingredient in any new potions that the game introduces. It would strengthen the connection between the medieval lore and the game, and would add depth to the magical abilities of runes. Ground mud runes already exist in the game and can be used in the Eye of Glowfree quest to repair a broken machine. So I think it's not unreasonable to suggest that the four elemental runes could have a place in herb lore to better connect RuneScape's medicine to its Hippocratic roots. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, so I wasn't recording, which is good because I kind of panicked. But apparently, the things on the second level of the Slayer floor can hit me pretty hard, pretty quick, and they lowered my stats so fast that I actually wasn't able to climb back down the spike chain, and I almost died because they hit me 8, and I was like, oh my god! I turned on my protect from magic, but my prayer had been drained down to only 3, so I had to immediately run through the Infernal Mages. I only attacked like 2 of them, and then I ran back out because, yeah, all my stats were lowered and I couldn't do jack. So we're going to go a little bit more carefully next time. We're not going to use the spike chain, and we literally just have to sit here next to the altar with our rapid restore on because we can't use a pool or anything, so I don't actually have a way to refresh these stats. Okay, so I'm a little dumb because I actually remembered that I do have the things in my bank for restore potions. So I can get some restores here, which will definitely help out and push my herb lore up by quite a bit, actually. So I should probably make all of these that I can. And you know what? While I'm here, while I'm doing this, I might as well just go and drop an herb up in this farming patch because I'm going to be here a while. This is actually a perfect example of how this character makes the game so much different, because normally I would just take these weeds that I just raked and throw them into this compost bin, but because I'm not going to be up here very often, it's not really worth it because I'm never going to collect them. Meanwhile, I have a compost bin only half full down over by Draenor, so I'd rather just take these weeds and bank them because of how difficult it is to travel on foot. And, you know, it's just a different pace of play. I honestly encourage people to play an Iron Man with some severe limitations like this, or play a character, because it puts you in such a more relaxed mindset. You can play the game so much slower. It feels honestly a lot more like Animal Crossing than it does RuneScape sometimes, because, you know, you're dealing with things on a matter of days rather than on a matter of minutes, and you can't just teleport from farm site to farm site. You get to appreciate the vistas, walk around a little bit, interact with more people. Really, seriously, consider, you know, if you are thinking of playing an Iron Man, you're already playing such a restricted account, what's one more restriction? It's never going to match the quality of your original account, so just do it. Do some fun stuff. If you have cool ideas for a unique Iron Man that you were thinking of playing and maybe want some input, put it in the comments, and maybe people will give you some feedback on what they think. Okay, so first Infernal Mage out of, I don't know why it says Anku. First Infernal Mage out of 50 done, but it took me, how many prayer points? From 44 to 30, it took me 10 prayer points, so I can only kill 4 per trip if I want to have prayer. I'm going to try flicking prayer. I'm not the best at flicking, but like I can try. Let me just set up my quick prayers real quick. Okay, here we go. All right, so he's attacking, and then let's off, on, off. Nope, I suck. All right, I'm about to work on this. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, now we're gaming. Now we're gaming. This is easy. I gotta do a calculation at the end and see how good my flicking was, because based on my earlier calculations, it was gonna take me like 12 trips roughly. So we'll see how many trips I actually had to do back to the altar. Hey, 9,000 GP, I guess. What is this Iron Man luck? Both of these are 1 in 500 drops. I've gotten the hat and the boots. These are the 2 best drops you can get, and I can't wear either of them. Okay, so I had to do a bit on mobile, so I didn't register the dragon task when I got it, but I do have to kill a little over 100 dragons, which is going to be more than enough to put us over our Slayer number. This is awesome. So we got 46 Slayer. I still have a lot of dragons to go. All right, excellent. Slayer level is now 47, so we can now kill brine rats. That's what we wanted to do this whole time. So I'm just going to grab the last couple of bolts here because I am cheap. Okay, so that's Slayer level done. We can get brine rats now. We can get the brine saber. The task isn't done, but I can come back here and finish it another time. A couple of things, just to wrap up the video. One, I said that if you guessed my next task correctly, you'd get a mill, and somebody did. Jonas Van Maldegem, congratulations, you got it correct. Hobgoblins was in fact my next task, so you get a mill. Congratulations. We can trade it over on the main account sometime or whatever. I don't know how any of this works, but we'll figure it out. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you send it to your friends, because I already sent it to all of mine. At the start of our next video, we will begin the Fremennik Trials questline and hopefully finish that by the end of the video. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be discussing next time, but you'll just have to come and see next time to find out. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a great holiday season, everybody.